Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We're covering the ban list again. This time we're talking about 6 winners from the set 10 ban list. So these are 6 strategies or themes or things that are basically going to benefit in the long run from this new ban list. We're here to talk about this today. Guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. If you want to help support the channel, there are many free ways to do that during these trying times. You can always like the video, maybe share the video, maybe watch an ad. And if you want to buy or pre-order in the cards you see in today's video, you can always use my link in the description to TCG Player. That being said, let's get on into it. So firstly, one of the cards we're losing, at least in terms of power level, is Super Saiyan God Son Goku Surge of Divinity. I talked about it in the video yesterday. I do think the leader is still playable in certain respects, not nearly as playable as he was before, but I think with the right strategy, he could still be pretty strong, maybe even meta worthy. But where Super Saiyan Son Goku Surge of Divinity falls, Super Saiyan Gotenks Display of Mastery rises. So this is one of the new leaders coming out in set 10. On the front side, he attacks, then you have the ability to take a life if you want to. It's optional, and then you can draw a card. So basically, you have that Self-Awaken that Broly and Jiren both have as generic yellow leaders, but he has the option to Self-Awaken. So there are going to be a lot of matchups, especially against aggro, where you just don't want to Self-Awaken, and Gotenks allows you to do that. On the back side and the front side, he has the ability that says when your opponent activates an extra card, you draw one. So for that type of generic ability, yeah, he has the other Union Fusion thing, but he's just so good generically that he is going to basically be the new Surge Goku in a sense. And what I mean by that is he's going to be the new generic leader. Now, in the past, we've had ultra generic leaders. We've had Super Saiyan God Son Goku Surge Divinity. We've had Super Saiyan 3 Goku. We've had some Wish leaders, some really generically powerful leaders. And in the past, we know that genericness usually is really strong. It's usually really good. There's usually a spot for it in the meta. Sometimes it runs over a whole meta, like Yellow Broly the Awakened Threat, like SS3 Son Goku. So Gotenks, he might be on the watch list later on. He might be a leader they have to look at later on. But I don't think he's quite as powerful as Broly in his prime, as SS3 in his prime. So for that reason, I think he'll be able to stick around. He kind of puts your opponent in an awkward position. Like, hey, if you want to activate extra cards, I'm going to draw off that. So your opponent's only going to want to negate attacks when it's absolutely vital to do so. They're not going to negate attacks willy-nilly. They're not going to activate extra cards without thinking about it. So he puts your opponent in a really awkward position. But I don't think he's quite as generically powerful as Yellow Broly was or as SS3 was. So for those reasons, I think he will be the next most powerful generic leader, but I don't think he'll be quite in the same class that we've seen in the past. So I don't think he'll really get too much in terms of being like touched or banned or errated, but who knows? The future will tell. But anyways, with Super Saiyan God Son Goku Surge of Divinity taking a step down, I think Gotenks is going to take a big step up. Next up, Janemba is another winner of the set 10 ban list. If you guys have watched any of my videos, if you guys have heard any Janemba player ever talk about their woes and miseries, it's always been hand control. Hand control has always been the biggest thing that has kept Janemba back. And now with Piccolo taking a big hit, Janemba has a little bit more wiggle room to breathe. Hand control, yes, it's still going to be a thing. Mono green Frieza in set 10, I think, is very powerful. There are other green strategies that are very powerful as well, thanks to the Super Saiyan Bardock Paternal Unison. But with the strongest hand control deck, in my opinion, Piccolo, taking a big hit, I think Janemba has some more space to breathe as maybe one of the new control decks. And I think Mono Blue Janemba could actually be very good because Mono Blue right now is proving to be very powerful in terms of a lot of different mid-range and control leaders. So Janemba could definitely adopt that. Janemba could adopt some of the new Unison cards because Janemba doesn't really care what cost your Unison is. Yeah, you can't include battle cards of 5 or higher, but you can include any cost of Unison. So you could play the 4-drop Gotenks, you could play the Zeno if you wanted to ramp potentially. That could all work out relatively well depending on the build. But of course, your multicolored Janemba will always still be there. Your blue-yellow, your blue-yellow-green, maybe even your blue-yellow-red if you wanted to splash Topo. That build has seen success in the past. And with Piccolo not being able to say, okay, you inherently lose 4 cards when I awaken, that is going to make Janemba a lot more relaxed in that sense. Again, you will still have to watch out for the mono green decks out there. They're still going to be doing the hand control thing. But if you have the right cards to attack against it, if you have your Sand and Sing Son Goku, or if you're just able to outplay it, you're going to be in a pretty good spot as a Janemba player. This deck could possibly make a comeback. Next up, Hatchiack. So I just got done talking about one of the most annoying decks in the game. Now we're talking about one of the other most annoying decks in the game, Hatchiack, the deck that doesn't let you attack them. So this deck really thought of popularity while Piccolo was in power, but not quite because of the blue-green variant. Like, yeah, Hatchiack is not a huge fan of hand control either, but the bigger thing that was really giving Hatchiack a rough time was Tricolor Piccolo featuring successors. Once again, Piccolo never has to attack the opponent's leader, and I mean that's still the case with the errata. You're just not plussing as many cards, but in any case, you never have to attack the opponent's leader. And Mono Black doesn't really have any good counterplays to stop a card like Super 17 Hellstorm Unleashed. Once you play that, Mono Black is pretty much defenseless. So if you're a deck like Hatchiack that doesn't really put pressure on in the early turns, your opponent's going to be able to get to drop Super 17 Hellstorm Unleashed on you, and they're going to be able to crit you down to 4, start putting big pressure on you. And all these big successors are 9 drops, so they get around your ability to stop 7s or less from attacking. That's just how it works. It's very unfortunate for Hatchiack. But with Piccolo inevitably seeing tons and tons less of play, Hatchiack's going to have a little bit more room to breathe once again. Now, do I think Successor is still really good going in set 10? I really do think so. I think certain leaders that I talked about in yesterday's video are going to be able to adopt Successor, especially Super 17 Hellstorm Unleashed. I think they're going to be able to adopt that strategy, that card, and play it. But it's going to take people a lot of time to figure that out. It's going to take a lot of people time to figure out just how the best successor engines, how the best successor decks are going to work, and that's going to give Hatchiack room to breathe. Hatchiack also is very favorable against the new Vegex deck. The new Vegex decks, even without Turles, is still very aggressive. They still spam a very, very wide board, and Hatchiack is basically the antithesis to that type of strategy. So that's one thing going for Hatchiack. The other thing going is Successor is taking a little bit of a hit, and until people really find a good Successor strategy to play with, Hatchiack will be able to be very, very playable, in my opinion at least. Next up, we're talking about monocolor strategies. So Android 21 Violent Predator, a very big contentious topic in the community, was banned on the ban list. I would have been totally fine with this going to 1, but you know that didn't end up happening. Anyways, set 10, it's all about monocolor. I think by now we pretty much know this, so it kind of makes sense that Android 21 Violent Predator had to go, but monocolor takes a big win from this. Obviously, all your set 10 decks are pretty much going to be monocolor. Of course, there's a lot of generic stuff in set 10, so you can experiment with multicolor. And even if you play multicolor, you don't have to play multicolor cards in particular. You can still charge different energy and not play multicolor cards if the strategy works out correctly. But even if you were to do that, you have to remember that Android 21 Violent Predator would still shuffle all your energy and all your battle cards back. Even if you played a 2-color deck, if you weren't charging multi-energy or playing multicolor battle cards, your board was still very, very susceptible to being wiped by this. So now what does that affect? Obviously that would have affected things like set 10 Vegito from the structure deck, mono green Frieza, mono yellow Gotenks, mono yellow Sin Shenron, all those different strategies, especially the ones that go later into the game, the more control-y, less aggro strategies. This would have affected greatly. But I also think that there's room now for rogue monocolor decks to surface. I was actually thinking about this yesterday. The Crit Nemba leader with its mono blue deck style, I did a deck profile several months ago where we put up blue yellow Crit Nemba, but now with all the new monocolor support in set 10, I think mono blue Crit Nemba is actually a very, very serious deck. The Zeno Cosmic Unison helps you out a lot because you get to ramp, drop your Janembas, do your different plays. You don't need to play the clunky blue yellow anymore because at that time it was kind of necessary. It gave you the good defensive options. But now with Unisons and with the Trunks counterplay, you have plenty of defense. Again, that ramp is going to help you get there and you stop your opponent's counterplays. So I think that a monocolor rogue deck like that is very, very, very playable and very fun to experiment with. And the fact 21 Violent Predator is gone, that's a big, big win for monocolor decks in that regard. Next up, we're talking about ramp strategies. So of course, on the ban list, Force Ejection Mass Saiyan and Begrudging Respect Piccolo were banned. I don't quite know how I feel about this. I'm not the most happy about it because I did kind of like having answers to ramp, and only very specific decks could play these checks to ramp. Like if your deck can't afford Overwhelm, you can't really play Force Ejection. Like sure, you could cast it for 3, but that's highly inefficient. You can only play Begrudging Respect Piccolo if you were in blue, so that was kind of a hindrance there. But they decided to ban it no matter what, and now, of course, ramp strategies are getting a big, big benefit off of that. So our main ramp strategies for going into set 10, there's anything you're playing with Android 16 Energy Amplification. He is relatively generic, as in he doesn't care what your leader is, but you do have to have a blue-green energy charged, and you do have to be pretty much playing a blue-green strategy. But he's seen success with tricolor builds. He's seen success with blue, yellow, green, so that could work out pretty well. And then, of course, Zeno Cosmic Unison. Now, the weird thing with Zeno Cosmic Unison is he doesn't give you a permanent ramp, but in a lot of these decks you're going to be playing with Zeno Cosmic Unison, you're going to be playing other ways to ramp, like Zamasu, for example. So that's where the Force Ejection and the Begrudging Respect Piccolo kind of come into play. But you also have other ways to ramp. Of course, you have the Trunk strategy with the Goku Blaze of Passion and the Vegeta Blaze of Passion. So those are definitely things you're going to want to watch out for in terms of their stock rising now that ramp is pretty much gone. So the last one I want to talk about in this video, guys, all of our hands, sorry if this is a weird cringy slide, but pretty much all of our hands in the Dragon Ball Super card game are big winners from the set 10 ban list. In my opinion, Piccolo is still going to be the best hand control strategy going into set 10. The leader just says, okay, you lose 4 cards, opponent, like just get wrecked. So the fact that leader is a lot less playable, rather, I think that's really good for all of our hands in the Dragon Ball Super card game. So basically, those are the 6 winners I want to talk about. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time.